Welcome, everybody. It's a pleasure to have you all here. As I was saying, I'm Gustavo, the editor of the Rainforest Investigations Network, and I'm here with the executive editor of the Pulitzer Center, Marina Walker Guevara. Today, we'll talk about our new initiative, the RIN, or RIN, this very exciting new network that will foster investigations and journalism in the three main tropical forest regions in the country, in the world. So for us to start, let me just show a little bit what we're going to see today. We're going to hear from Marina to start, welcoming introduction. Then I'll present our main goals and ideas for this initiative. And finally, we'll have time for a conversation where we'll receive your questions. Just bear with me because I'm managing the presentation and the questions, so I'll be looking and trying to get all the questions from you. So to start, I'll ask Marina to give her welcoming words. Marina is the executive editor of the Pulitzer Center, and also she was years working with the International Center for Investigative Journalism, ICIJ, and where she had great experience on running networks of investigative journalism. And that's why we're very inspired to create this new investigative network. So welcome, Marina, and let's hear from you.
Thank you so much, Gustavo, and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Please feel free to leave your name and where you are based in the chat so we get to know you. Our intention is that the next 45 minutes or so be less of a webinar and more of a conversation where you get to ask questions you have about this exciting new initiative we are launching at the Pulitzer Center called the Rainforest Investigations Network. For those of you who might not be as familiar with the Pulitzer Center, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about us. We are a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C., but with staff in different countries around the world. And we are dedicated to support in-depth reporting globally. We give reporting grants to individual journalists and to newsrooms, but we also champion our grantees' work through events, community outreach, and also education. Our education programs connect newsrooms and classrooms to help build media literacy among students. We support the stories on a variety of topics, but the environment has a special place at the Pulitzer Center. And within that broad umbrella, we believe that the destruction of the tropical rainforests is just one of the most urgent stories of our time. It is also a very complex story. It's a story about greed, legal loopholes, transnational supply chains, and corruption. To tackle that story, we need special conditions, just like we needed special conditions when we did stories like the Panama Papers at the ICIJ, where I used to work before. So what are some of those conditions? Let's talk about three of them. The first one is a cross-border network approach, because crime doesn't stop at national borders. These stories really transcend our countries. The second one is a collaborative reporting model. It is by sharing documents and data and knowledge that we can tackle the complexity of the systems we seek to investigate. And the third condition is a data-driven approach, because with the Rainforest Investigations Network, we don't want to pursue episodic small stories, he said, she said stories. The stakes are just too high. We are going for a more systemic approach, a data-driven approach that would use advanced data mining techniques to uncover larger patterns of wrongdoing across regions. So we really can't wait to get started, and we can't wait to select the first cohort of investigative fellows. We are seeking investigative reporters, experienced reporters, reporters committed to this particular story, and eager to work with colleagues from around the world on stories that challenge settled narratives and also hold the powerful to account. Along the way, we hope to build community with these fellows, try new approaches and methods, be a little bit of an experimentation lab, and also pursue the kind of stories that have the potential to spark change. Before finishing, I wanted to acknowledge that we are building on the great work that another program at the Pulitzer Center has been doing for the past 2 years, the Rainforest Journalism Fund. And we hope to continue working very closely with all of them. So with that, I will turn to Gustavo, who will give us a more detailed overview of the Rainforest Investigations Network, and will also tell us some tips on how to apply to become a fellow.
Sure, thanks, Marina. That was great. And I think I'm gonna jump out a little bit of the script because we receive a special guest, Jon Sawyer, the executive director of the Pulitzer Center. Do you wanna just say hello, Jon, to our guests, and then I'll go and explain better our initiative. You're muted, Jon, sorry. Okay.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you, Gustavo. Thanks, Marina. We're, as you heard from Marina, we're very excited about this initiative and thrilled to have Gustavo in the role of managing this program. And we think this is a huge opportunity to build a truly global team to look at one of the biggest issues that we face in the world today. So we welcome your interest. We hope that you'll apply, that you'll spread the word and bring in the best possible people. So with that, I'll turn it back to Gustavo, and thanks again.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's go and see the main features of our initiative. So the main goal, as Marina and Jon just mentioned, we hope to provide funds, data, and editorial support to investigative journalism in the rainforest regions. I think this is well covered, but let's see the specifics. As you probably saw in our call for applications, for this first year, we're seeking 10 fellows. We're selecting 10 fellows. And here's an important issue already to answer some of the questions I'm getting from some of you on the specifics of the initiative. So people are asking, like, should I live in the Amazon region? Should I live in the Congo Basin? So that's why I'm using 3 fellows to report in the Amazon region. So the Amazon region and countries, right? Or 3 fellows to report in the Congo Basin region or countries. So we're considering the countries that form this forests, like the 9 countries of the Amazon region, or the 9 countries of the Congo Basin, or the countries of Southeast Asia, to be able to submit their applications. So if you're living in one of these countries and not specifically in the region, you can submit your application. But of course, we also would like to select and to receive applications from those who are specifically living in the region of the forest. So we select 3 to report from the Amazon region, 3 to report from the Congo Basin region, and 3 to report from the Southeast Asia region. And we're also going to select 1 fellow based at a global media outlet with a global outreach, what we're considering it to be an international or like a global media outlet. So what are the key dates for us right now? We also selecting, and this is might not be clear in this webinar, but we're also selecting the position of the data architect, which will be the professional who will help us on doing the data mining and the data analysis, and to help us to innovate on these investigations. And the idea is that not only is going to help us to provide data, but also provide some training and advice for maybe the teams of data journalists based in your media outlet. So this is a very exciting way for us to think to help you on your investigation. So up to December 10th, we're receiving applications for this technologist, developer, or data journalist that we're calling the data architect. And I think this word architect is quite interesting to think, because that's the way we're seeing it. It's going to be the person who's going to structure the data base or the data sets for us to extract more from your investigations, to help you more with your investigations. And then on December 20th, it's when the deadline for the fellowships are due. So you have up to the December 20th to send your applications for the fellowships. We hope to do the interviews in January. We might have the chance of doing some interviews before that, but it's very likely that most of the interviews are going to be done in January, and hopefully in February next year, we'll be starting with the real work. So this is the timeline that we are envisioning. I'm getting a lot of questions from some of your you about when this is going to start. So hopefully this helps responding some of your questions. But if you have some more on the timeline, please let me know. So what is included in the fellowship? So we hope to pay for 1 year of the salary as the fellowship, and the way we establishing the rate, the amount of this fellowship is going to be talking to your media, the partner media outlet that you're partnering or you working as staff, because we don't want to create some disparities in a team that we might not know. So I think the best way of doing this is actually talking to the editors or the coordinators of the outlet and say and understand what's the rate it's paid, and to support that salary for a whole year. So this is going to be negotiated, taking into account regional differences and also outlet differences. What else is included? We'll help you, as editorial advisors. Me as an editor of environmental investigations and the data architect will follow the work. We'll do meetings. We're gonna chat very often to help you to do the best stories over this year. So we're not considering that we're gonna edit the stories ourselves. We're going to provide a lot of support. We're going to hopefully give you a lot of insights with the data analysis that we hope to do, or to provide eventually some training or specific data sets, let's say satellite imagery or methodologies on how to analyze specific database or how to deal with big data. That's more or less the way we're thinking we can contribute to our investigations. I think it's very important to say, as we're getting these questions as well, that we don't intend to interfere on the editorial freedom of your outlet. So your outlet, your editors, still going to have the total editorial control of the stories that you're going to be producing. Of course, at this initial stage, as we're receiving the proposals, we will have a lot of conversations on the scope of the investigations, on things that we believe it's going to be important and create more impact, but on the way the story is published, the format and the language, of course, it's going to be the way the outlet will decide. There's also a support which we consider modest funds, although it can be very helpful to support some of the expenses of this fellowship. This can be like trips, or maybe paying a graphic designer for publishing some of these feature stories, or other costs that we are not actually seeing right now. But that's something that, pretty much like the fellowship, also we're going to have to negotiate with the outlets, what kind of support the outlets will need for the fellows to do their best work. That's our idea for this funds. These funds, we envisioning something around $10,000. I know that some people will say, well, if I have to do a lot of trips in the Amazon or the Congo Basin, this might not be enough because they're very expensive. I have to pay the boat or the airplane or the helicopter. It's that kind of story. I know it can happen, but we also think that it's the role of the partner media outlet to come forward and support part of your ambitions, because we support in the fellowship, and so we should talk with the media outlets as well if you want to do more or beyond these funds. I think that's the idea, that we negotiate with you directly, could negotiate with your media outlet as well. And maybe here is the one of the key issues. I think Marina gave a lot of insights and clarifications on the ambitions that we are having to this initiative, but let's go over on the kind of stories that we are expecting. Of course, investigations are in depth, so we're really expecting that you, while doing your investigations, going to be able to connect much more than the local issues, but connect with some of the global issues. It can be like global markets, but also issues of global importance. So this word connection, I think, is really important to think. You know, like what kind of trends you can find, what kind of hidden connections you would be able to find in your local stories in your country, or maybe considering transnational investigations. Another very strong trend that we are pushing with this new network are data-driven investigations. And as we were saying, we're going to have this data architect position, and hopefully this analysis on big data sets will help us to review written patterns in documents and other data sets. I think the sky is the limit here. There's a lot of new methodologies on artificial intelligence to analyze satellite imagery or go over large big data repositories. So we can, of course, discuss once we have your proposals, but think about that when writing your proposal. Data-driven investigations is key for us. And the last point is we also would like to see stories and proposals that are very innovative in terms of like thinking outside of the box in terms of methodologies. It could be working with multidisciplinary teams, you know, thinking about other professionals that can help on bringing new methodologies of investigation, or a collaborative approach, working with more than one outlet if your outlet is open to collaborate with other outlets in other countries. So this kind of a creative approach to journalistic investigations, I think, would be very welcome. Finally, one very important question as well is how often should the stories be published or broadcast? So this is a tricky one, because investigations can take time, and we don't want to refrain anyone for doing the great work they believe they can do. But some projects can be not really suitable for this initiative. I would say a book project is unlikely to be supported. But a long-term project, I think we are open to that. Although during the project, I think the most important thing is during the project to explain very well how it's going to be done, how this is feasible. And I know we journalists sometimes get puzzled by this word impact, but I think this is one of key things that should be explained in the proposal. If you're doing whatever project we're doing, if you're publishing every week, every day, every month, or twice a year, explain really clear how you expect this will create impact. You know, like how you expect to get meaningful distribution, reach, audience, partnerships with other outlets that can republish your work. I think you're not obliged to know everything in advance, what's going to happen in 1 year from now, but it's possible to envision, to speculate might not be the word, but to envision what you want with this project. I want this project to reach this amount of outlets. There's a chance of doing partnership here and there, and the distribution is going to be done with this frequency. I think this is also some of the role we can play along the fellowships to help to to see other products. Even if you're thinking about doing a long-term project, we could propose maybe here's a chance for doing a smaller story that builds up for this big story that's going to be finalized in some months from now. So I think this mix between short-term and long-term publications, it's what we are looking for. And I believe that there's a good way of concretely explain on your applications what you're expecting in terms of frequency. So I hope this is already helpful, but I'm pretty sure you have a lot of questions. I'm going to look at the chat. Marina, John, is there anything you want to add at this point?
We have a good question here from Peter Young, and maybe John wants to answer this question. And it's about the form that it would take for freelance reporters to partner with local newsrooms. So he's asking what form would that need to be in? Is the intention that freelancers will work with many local newsrooms as opposed to international outlets?
That is a good question, Peter. And our intent here is to have you work with a particular news outlet. So that's part of the proposal, that you have a lot of leverage as an applicant because you develop the proposal, but then you need to take it to an outlet within each of the regions, or in the case of the global outlet, take it to the global outlet and say, look, I've got my salary covered for the next year and potentially longer if it's successful. But I need to have a local partner who's going to host me and promote the work. And because part of what we're trying to do is to create a network that engages not only the fellows themselves, but the news outlets that they're working with. And then all 10 of those news outlets will be working as well with Gustavo, with Marina, and me, with the data architect, the coordinator that we'll be hiring here to just help facilitate all of the work and make sure that we're giving, helping to find useful data for the news outlets to draw from. So it's very much kind of a team approach, but with independence. So the key relationship is going to be between the applicant, the fellow to be, and the news outlet that she or he recruits to be the host. I hope that helps.
Yeah, that was very good. And we have a question from Joaquin in Argentina, and what he asks is about a little bit related, the fellow working in the global media outlet may be near but outside the Amazon region, for example, in the case of Argentina. And what I would say is like the global media outlet obviously can be based anywhere. The expectation would be that the journalist working at the global media outlet would focus during the year of the fellowship almost exclusively on these stories. It would require, working through data that is obviously related to the topic, but also potentially visiting the region as needed and working collaboratively with the other local regional reporters. If you are in Argentina and you are applying for one of the slots of the Amazon region, so for one of the regional reporting slots, then you would need to make the case that your story is absolutely connected and focused in the Amazon region, and you need to explain what your plan is going to be to spend substantial time in that region, what your expertise and track record is in that region, and to justify the fellowship. I don't know, Gustavo, if you want to add anything on that.
I think that would be my answer without wanting to influence on any issues. I think the key is to think about these connections, as Marina said, like how this country or this region is influenced by what's happening in the Amazon. I think the focus, again, is the region. Or the forests, even better, like the forest region. So you could search for scientific connections, commercial, trade connections. There's a lot of possibilities there. So I think the connections is the word here. We have another question from Yuri from John. Do you want to say something?
I'm not going to say Yuri's great. Go ahead.
Yeah, Yuri is asking if freelance reporters need to work exclusively to the project partner media during the fellowship. And the short answer is yes. We hope to provide funds for a full-time job with whatever partner you propose, but the idea is to have that full year dedicated to the investigation.
Yeah,
Anything to add?
Just to add to that, our intent here is to have competitive salaries for whichever outlet we're working with. So we're very much looking for experienced journalists to do this work, and to give you enough income that there will be the opportunity to really throw yourselves into this project.
And of course, we understand that sometimes, especially in countries like mine, Argentina, and others around the world, we all wear many hats in our newsrooms. So we will be a little bit flexible, but as Jon said, the idea is to create these conditions that would allow you to do this work that otherwise is so hard to do, that would free you in some ways from a lot of other responsibilities and give you the opportunity to do really amazing, in-depth, long-tail investigative reporting.
And to come back just to the point about leverage that we mentioned earlier, that you as an applicant, maybe you're already working for an outlet in one of the regions, and you'd love to be able to do this kind of big global project working with this team that we're organizing. Go to your editor and say, look, I can have a full-time position. My salary will be covered, so that you can then, the agency, the outlet, can use that money saved to hire somebody else to do the work that you're doing now, so that it frees you up to do that work. And that's important. Or if you're a freelancer and you go to an outlet and say, look, I've got a great idea for a project. This is not going to cost you salary. This is going to be an add-on to your outlet. And I think that can be a very compelling argument.
I also wanted to emphasize a little bit of the benefits of working in this collaborative reporting, cross-border reporting model. You would have the opportunity, especially at this time where we still don't know how much we're going to be able to move. We're still confined to our countries. This gives us a really great opportunity to work with colleagues that are based in other countries, in other key regions for this story, and that have the access, the expertise, the knowledge to help us on our stories. As we said before, these stories don't stay within national borders. We're going to need to follow the money. We are going to find, of course, corporations that are operating across the 3 regions. We are going to find lobbyists and methodologies and even legislation that is copied and transferred from region to region. And to be able to look at all those patterns is going to be, we think, really helpful to have a network of trusted colleagues that you are going to see regularly, that you are going to network with regularly, and that will be there to help you take your stories to the next level. Those partners can also help with publication and distribution. If your story is really great, I am in a different media organization, but I likely would like to publish it myself as well. So we hope that you'll be able to really leverage resources, opportunities for publication, opportunities for data and documents that you didn't imagine that existed in a different country and that relate directly to the story, to the subject, to the person, to the scheme that you are investigating.
Wonderful. Yeah, I think when I heard about this initiative as well, the first inspiration that came to my mind, it was exactly the work Marina was doing with the Panama Papers, because it's this idea that we can look at the big picture and trying to be ambitious in a sense that investigate much beyond one country or one region. So eventually it would be really, really interesting to think about how this whole group of fellows could contribute. As Marina was saying, what kind of methodologies can be exchanged, and this position also, the data architect will be key for this documenting these methods of investigation. So we really would like to bring this expertise of great investigative journalism to the rainforest journalism, so to speak, environmental investigations.
Gustavo, would you like to talk a little bit about the application process and what people can expect that they are going to be asked if they haven't looked at the form yet. Any tips for the application? And also, while you answer that, I encourage everyone to keep asking questions so we can provide answers.
Yeah, there are some questions getting to the question and answer form here. We should look at it. I'm seeing it. I'm gonna check. But so the form, it's not really long, but it's well structured. We have one question about how this initiative helps you in your career and how your history and your career relates to this initiative. So I think we want to hear a little bit about yourself, what you've been doing, what's your experience on investigative journalism. That's one first question. And then we have the key question about the proposal, where we expect you to explain how you envision your investigation, what the topics want to investigate, and any methodology you apply. Of course, the places and the regions within the major rainforest regions you expect to investigate, and key thing is the distribution plan, as I was saying, like how you expect to obtain impact with your proposal. Who is going to be your partners to publish these stories? How are you going to obtain the reach and the impact that your investigation deserves? I think this is one other question. Other things that we will find on the form, a request for references. I think this is a good thing to start thinking about it. Who's gonna be able to send us a letter or connect with us to tell a bit of your previous work. What else? I don't have the form open here with me. But
that's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah.
We do have 3 questions. I hadn't seen them in the Q&A section. So you want to tackle the first one from Heriberto Araujo?
Hi, Heriberto. So this is the kind of thing that we believe it could be the support of the for the partner media outlet. If you have other costs that are not covered in your fellowship, like trips or hiring a local investigator, I think you could use and negotiate with your partner to receive this extra support and to pay for that. And that's how we would see this money being spent in a good way for helping your investigation. So again, these extra funds that we are planning to pass on to your partner media outlet, it's exactly for that, to support your investigations, either it's a trip or maybe hiring a local fixer, eventually a photographer or a designer. Again, if you think it's not going to be enough for a year, it's the moment it's also to negotiate with the partner.
And the question for those who couldn't read it was about hiring, for example, a local fixer or a local lawyer that can help a media organization obtain documents. Apparently in Brazil, to access court documents, you need that kind of support. And so the question whether there would be funds to be able to support that kind of work. And what Gustavo said is that the extra additional support that will go to the media outlet can help cover those costs. Now, the question from Naira is whether media outlets that participate are required to publish the stories of all the countries. And also if the different fellows on the same countries have to work together in the same stories. Who wants to tackle that one?
I can say it would be beautiful to have this kind of partnership, but definitely not required. Do you want to? I mean, that kind of partnership or collaboration that we would like to achieve at some point would be not just the fellows working together, but the outlets contributing, and we believe that will be a way of getting more impact.
It goes back to the point of editing. Because
Sure.
it goes back to the point of editorial independence, that the outlets, it's up to them to decide which, if there are other stories that are being published, in other regions, other countries that, we hope they're going to be interested, but there's no requirement. And the same with in terms of working on the same story, part of what we're going to be, our role is kind of cheerleading and facilitating on the side. And so if we see patterns, if we see a story that's in Indonesia that we think it relates to a multinational company that's also doing a lot in Colombia or Peru, then, Gustavo, Marina, the rest of it, we'll be bringing that to your attention, to those outlets, and saying, have you thought about this? Are there potential leads here that you could work with each other on that? But not requirements. There's none of it is required.
What we would like is for fellows to have the collaborative mindset and the openness to that collaboration. It would not be very productive for us to fund a lot of just individual reporters working like we traditionally work, investigative reporters as lone wolves in our caves. The idea of the network is that by talking often to one another and sharing what we are doing, that we will find stories that are bigger, that are more consequential, that are bigger scope than our local story. As important as those local stories are, because as we know, corruption is always local first. We have a good story from Scott Wallace, a good question from Scott Wallace. And the question is, to what extent might it be possible for a reporter to work on one of the fellow stories if one is not selected as a fellow?
I think it's totally understandable, Scott, and I think it's a matter of conversation. I mean, I understand you want to bring some of your expertise to probably help one of the fellows, to partner with that fellow. I think it's to understand in what context that will happen. Are you coming with another outlet and proposing a partnership? Maybe it's a great fit for a local journalist in one of these regions who want to partner with a well-known journalist that I know you are, Scott. I'm sorry for bringing this, but I know you are. So if this local journalist want to work with you and maybe have the mentorship and publish with a big media outlet, why not? We're definitely open to converse.
Yeah, and it would be fantastic if the media outlets and the reporters involved is not limited to the 10 or 11 official fellows, but that as we grow and as we find bigger stories, we also are going to need more support, help, and partnerships in other parts of the world, in other formats, publication formats. And so we will definitely be reaching out to people like Scott and Heriberto and many in this call that might be able to help if they are not already fellows.
There's one other aspect. Tell me if I'm missing any questions here, but there's one other aspect that I might have forgot to put on the presentation, but eventually it's going to be clear for everyone. There's a big education and outreach effort on this initiative, on the Rainforest Investigations Network. So as Pulitzer have been doing in many of its initiatives, there's a set of follow-up activities with universities, schools, trainings, webinars that are great, not only to make your story better, but to reach that level of impacting the society. So we're envisioning when the stories start coming out next year to seek for these partnerships with educational institutions, mostly universities, I believe, but it could be schools, why not? We have at Pulitzer a lot of good examples of working with elementary and even high schools, and why not taking the journalists there? These issues are important for everyone. So we're start thinking on this outreach activities, and partnerships will be welcome.
Just on that point, Gustavo, and just something to think about, we're not going to put out the call for applications until we get into the reporting. So it'll probably be middle of next year, but we will be hiring part-time educational coordinators, 2 in each of the rainforest regions. So just as you're thinking about people you know in the education space, whether it's K-12 or college or graduate school, who might be interested in that work, just to let them know about it and that it's coming. It will be coming soon. It will be an important part of this initiative over the next 3 years.
Okay, so in terms of next steps, because we are approaching 45 minutes already, I don't know if you have any last minute question, any burning questions that haven't been asked, this is your opportunity to ask it now. But in terms of next step, please also know that we are available, we are reachable. You can reach any of us and ask any follow-up questions. Next step is to work on, if you want to apply to be one of the investigative fellows, the first cohort, work on your application proposal, especially the story idea. What is that big project that you want to work on? How are you going to go about it? What data is available for that story that you already know of? Maybe it's hard to obtain, it doesn't matter. Just tell us what the data is and what your ideas are for working with that data, analyzing it. Remember, we will have data support as part of the initiative as well. So I think that that's the main point. And submit your application early, because we definitely favor early applications, so we have more time to discuss your ideas with you and make our selections.
So we had, Marina, we had another question from Peter Young. It's a good point about concern about the idea of working with the local newsroom, that when you think about places like Democratic Republic of Congo, local news outlets comparable to those in Asia and the Americas are extremely scarce, and there aren't budgets for travel in many of those outlets. Are some of those regional variations something you've considered? And yeah, I think we have the answer to that, and I think we're open to thinking innovatively about how do you deal with that. I mean, there are when we say local outlets, it could be online outlets that have just recently been set up that may have the ability to do some things that traditional legacy outlets cannot do. So think in those terms. It might be an outlet that is global in part, but has a big presence in the region. It could be RFI or Radio Africa. So that think about that as a possible approach that would make it possible to work in the region and have the kind of support that you need. The other thing, I think about travel is important, but this is one of the things to bear in mind with this initiative in terms of we're looking really sort of at data. There's a difference. We also have the Rainforest Journalism Fund, which is supporting a lot of really important, great reporting. But the kind of feature reporting, the documentary, the explanatory kind of work, that's being done more under the RJF site. And that might entail a lot of travel to go to a specific place. It can be quite expensive. This is more about, there certainly can be travel as part of the work in the RIN, but it's also about having people that are really good at looking at data sets and getting to the data within each of these countries. And so it may be more important to be in Kinshasa or Jakarta than to be out in the rainforest regions themselves. So that's just something to think about.
I think what we can do, if we all start collecting court documents and sharing them on a platform where we can make them shareable, where we can make them searchable. Imagine if we collect corporate registration documents or other interesting documents that again point at companies and patterns that cross regions.
And those kinds of platforms, we have money in the budget for this project to support that. This is over and above the local support for the news outlets or the salary for the fellows. That we have resources for technical creation of these kinds of platforms.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you all for participating. Jon, Marina, thanks for helping me with this questions. I think my final message is that really would like to keep in touch with you. I think your feedback is great. Your questions, I think for all of us, not just for you guys, but for us, doing this initiative is very challenging, and we are very ambitious in terms of what we expect. But most of all, we believe this is the most important thing that we should do right now. This is one of the most pressing issues of our times, and this is a great opportunity for us to do something about it and to work together. So please work hard on your proposals. Make sure that you send me an email or contact us if you have any questions. And this webinar is going to be recorded, so we hope to upload on Pulitzer's YouTube channel. So it's going to be there again if you want to make sure you understand everything. I might put my presentations also available for all. I think this is all. Have a great day, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Gustavo. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thank you.